Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, understanding the sales process. In this module, we're going to cover a lot of details regarding the sales process. The most important factor in any sales technique is to get into the mind of the buyer. Put yourself in their position. How do you feel as a buyer when someone tries to sell you something? Most people don't like to be sold, but they do like to buy. The important difference is the process should be in their control. And let's face it, typical businesses in the real world are approached every single day by salesmen of every type. So they've learned very well to avoid sales pitches, and they have walls up to avoid being approached. So our job in providing a valuable service to them is to let them recognize the value without being a salesperson. We are not trying to sell something here. We're trying to provide a business with real value in exchange for a fair profit. In my mind, selling something is you have something you're trying to push off on someone. That's not the case. We have something of real value. If a business were to go out and have a website designed for themselves, it would cost them several $1,000s. To have a video produced to put on that website would be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 or more. To have a guide written that serves their promotions would run several hundred or even $1,000 more. So what we're providing to them is a real package, completely done, ready to go. All they have to do is take it over. That is very appealing to a business who is trying to make a difference online. Your job is to simply point out the fact that you have something they're looking for. So there are 4 main ways that you can make that connection with a buyer. Number 1, in person. Walk down the street and go and talk to business owners and see where they're at, see what they're doing online, and letting them know what you have to offer. Most people don't like to do that, and that is not what we're going to discuss. There's also the telephone. People make cold calls to businesses and rely on numbers. Well, this course is not about telemarketing either. Direct mail. Direct mail is very effective because not as many people do it as they used to in the past before the internet. My background is in direct mail, and it's very effective even when there's a lot of competition, because direct mail catches the attention of a business owner if presented correctly. But in this course, we're not covering that either, because this is not about direct mail. We're trying to do this in the most cost-effective way possible. So what's left? Well, of course, there's email. Now, email being the path of least resistance and the least costly way of promoting, of course, there's going to be a lot more competition, and you'll have to do a lot more of it in order to be successful. But in this module, I'm going to cover a lot of points that will make you stand above the crowd and make them pay attention to you rather than other people who are also making offers by email. And that's a very important distinction. With Local Domain Empire, there are 2 main ways of approaching this. One is through passive sales, and one is through proactive sales. Passive sales is when you install lots of these websites and attract search engine attention automatically by the fact that they just exist, and rely on, over time, people finding the website, businesses that look for their keywords online and see that you have a website for sale and make you an offer. And that does happen over time. The problem with that is you have to wait for the offers to come to you. The other way to do it is to be proactive about it and contact potential buyers. Both methods of selling work very effectively. One takes a lot longer, one is very quick. One doesn't require work, one does. But the rewards are worth it in both cases. And using a combination of both of these processes is what makes Local Domain Empire a successful program. Another thing to consider is there are end users or there are wholesale users. When you sell a domain name to an end user, they're paying the market price for the domain name, whether it be $500 or $1,000 or more. When you sell to people who are wholesalers or resellers in the domain marketplace, you'll be selling for 5% or 10% of the real value that you could get from a retail buyer. But in many cases, selling wholesale makes sense because if you're getting to the end of the registration term for the domain name and you just want to move on to a different one, you can cash in and at least get your money back for the domain names that you've purchased. To sell wholesale, the best way to do that is to use one of the 2 main domaining forums, one being namepros.com and one is dnforum.com. They both have forum sections where you're allowed to sell your domain names to other domainers. This is a very effective way to recapture some of your investment on domain names that you haven't sold. And let's face it, all the domain names that you register are not going to sell. In fact, extremely successful domainers will sell about 50% of the domains that they register. But the important thing to remember is just selling one domain name can easily cover the cost of dozens of other domain names that didn't sell. So in the videos to follow, we'll cover a lot of these details and get on with selling domain names the proper way.